think of all the major holidays, Thanksgiving is the most American. It's just so deeply ingrained in our shared culture. I mean, it also does the most American thing ever and totally glosses over the grim realities of how we got to that shared culture, but nevertheless, it is a part of the fabric of our totally not flawed at all country. Christmas is bigger and Halloween is funner, but Thanksgiving is a surprisingly uncommercialized holiday that encourages people to spend quality time with their loved ones. It's one of the few remaining pieces of common ground we have as a culture, as despite our differences, the majority of us have the shared experience of that Thanksgiving turkey dinner. But aside from the universal feeling of asking someone to give me some of them peas, everybody has their own Thanksgiving traditions they partake in. Some people sit around waiting for Arlo Guthrie's Alice's Restaurant to come on the radio, while others force their wives and girlfriends to sit through the last waltz. Again, some people would put on the Mystery Science Theater 3000 Turkey Day Marathon, while others would spend the money to see teams of 5 strive to survive. Some people's grandfather would wake him and his cousins up way too early to bring them to Plymouth Plantation even though it was f***ing freezing out and nobody ever had fun, and other people just watch Friends. But there is one tradition that many consider to be the most synonymous with the holiday. For years it has been considered the definitive Thanksgiving programming and has enraptured millions of viewers across the country. For a lot of people, just sitting and watching it is the premier Thanksgiving tradition. Until one year when that Thanksgiving tradition turned to Thanksgiving tragedy. This is Pop Culture Hyperfixations, and today we're taking a trip back to 1997 and the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade that went horribly wrong.
The arm landed about 10 feet in back of us on top of all the people. You just heard a lot of people yelling and screaming and a lot of commotion at that point in time.
Going on now for over a century, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is a staple of American pop culture. People are deeply passionate about it. And while I've never really gotten into it, their annual nature make them a really fun time capsule for a freak like me. While some people watch for the lip-sync Broadway performances, and others watch for the celebrities on floats, the biggest attraction will always be the balloons. I did an accidental dad joke there, as they are not only biggest in terms of the interest they attract, but because they're, well, friggin' huge. Now obviously when the balloons first appeared in the parade, they weren't nearly as massive, but they were still designed to cater to children. Their first recorded appearance was 3 years into the parade's history, when in 1927 a Felix the Cat balloon strolled down the route. And subsequent years would see characters like Mickey Mouse, Snoopy, and Bullwinkle join the parade, while poor Secret Squirrel would never receive the honor, which I think he deserves, especially for his work with the CIA in South America during the 70s. As the parade grew in size and scope, companies began to see the benefits of promoting their children's entertainment to such a wide audience. By the 90s, they were paying an estimated $250,000 to have their balloons put in the parade, which is a steep price until you realize Nielsen estimated 30 million people watch the parade each year. Now, it wasn't just the parade that was growing every year, it was also the balloons, as the biggest ones were beginning to reach heights of 7 stories tall, or 70-ish feet for those who prefer that unit of measurement, or 9 Olivier Roux's for those who measure things based on people from Desus and Mero clips they've watched hundreds of times. Given the size of the balloons and the importance of, not letting them float away, you might be surprised to find out that the team of handlers isn't comprised of professionals, but rather volunteers. Yeah, arguably the most important jobs in the whole parade go most often to Macy's employees from across the country who take the job for free. Aside from their lack of paycheck, what also astonished me was that for a long time, it seemed like their level of training was minimal at best. Longtime Macy's event planner Jean McFadden told reporters that when she first got the job in the 70s, most of the training wasn't done until the morning of the parade. Macy's thought what they were doing was good enough, and for a long time, it seemed like they were right. Now obviously with balloons that size, the number one concern was the wind, but it was only 1971 that would ever see the balloons grounded for weather-related reasons. In later years, people would chalk that up to Macy's concern for the safety of parade attendees, which may have very well been true. But reporting at the time did seem to indicate that the real issue might have been the poor weather conditions the night before, which prevented the crew from even inflating the balloons. So personally, I think it's a little murky. For most of the parade's history, the balloons ran without much incident. Given the size of them, accidents could be expected, but more often than not, any damage caused would be exclusively to the balloon. It wasn't uncommon to turn on the TV and see a damaged balloon that had snagged a tree or post, limping its way down the route. But beginning in the 80s, incidents began to not only pile up, but start to get a little scary. In 1986, a gust of wind blew the Raggedy Ann balloon into a lamppost, causing glass to shatter, but luckily nobody was injured. As far as I could ascertain from my research, that was the first time a balloon damaged a post that severely, but it would not be the last. In 1993, the Sonic the Hedgehog balloon also hit one, except this time, it knocked a piece down which injured a little girl and an off-duty police officer. Just 2 years later, the Dudley the Dragon balloon also crashed into a post and rained glass onto the crowd below. And just 1 year later, in 1996, no accidents happened. I just wanted to show this clip of the Lawrence brothers performing with a giant M&M.
You're the one I can always turn to. You are my soulmate, now and forever. I can feel two hearts beating as one.
Going into the 1997 parade, it was no secret that the winds were going to be rough, but Macy seemed ready. When asked by the New York Daily News about the winds, Gene McFadden told the paper, "We don't take the wind lightly. We're prepared and we have a plan we put into action if we have to." The morning of the parade, wind gusts were over 40 miles per hour, on par with the canceled 1971 parade, and a meeting was held between Macy's organizers and the NYPD. Macy's would later claim that they all agreed it was okay to let the balloons fly, although the NYPD would dispute that, claiming that Macy's were adamant that their crews were skilled enough to handle the wind. We'll never know the truth. Although Sonic did fly in the parade, and given his history with the department, I find it hard to believe the cops would ever knowingly let that happen. And so, on November 27, 1997, the 71st annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade kicked off, with millions in attendance and many more watching broadcasts on NBC and CBS. Although technically only NBC had rights to the Macy's parade, CBS was clever enough to get a different spot on the route and combine that with several other parades across the country for their All-American Parade special. I bring that up because 1, footage they captured will be relevant later on, and 2, to point out how cruel it is that Gregory Hines and Christine Baranski have to freeze their asses off covering the New York City parade, while the cast of The Nanny gets to hang out in Hawaii. Just a quick heads up before I begin really talking about the incidents that occurred. I want to be clear that I will be skipping around a bit and not covering the incidents in chronological order. So, if you're looking for a more thorough accounting of the events as they transpired, a YouTuber named Birdwreck did an incredible video breaking it down minute by minute, which I highly recommend. Almost as soon as the parade began, the wind wreaked havoc on everyone involved. The poor balloon handlers were trying their best, but quite frankly, they were getting their asses kicked. Balloons were bumping into trees and posts left and right, with Sonic the Hedgehog only making it a block before the wind allegedly took him out. He wasn't the only one to fall, as the Nestle Quick Bunny, Pink Panther, and Barney would not survive the day's proceedings. The Pink Panther's massive balloon was so out of control that it allegedly knocked out a balloon handler, and its quick deflation almost smothered 2 others. Barney's exit from the parade is infamous, as home video footage captured the moment NYPD officers rushed the balloon with knives to live the dreams of parents everywhere and put the out-of-control purple dinosaur out of their misery.
Stop! He's already dead!
But far and away the spot that gave the handlers the most trouble was at the intersection of 72nd Street and Central Park West. As a Travel Channel special from 1998 titled Inside the Macy's Day Parade explained, that spot created a wind tunnel that handlers would have to try to run through to avoid losing the balloons to the trees and posts. It was also the same spot where Kathy Carona, her husband Massimo, and their 9-month-old son Alessandro were gathered to watch the parade. They had never been before, but they decided to bring their newborn son and film it so they'd have some record of their first Thanksgiving as a family. It was at that spot where a Peter Rabbit balloon bumped into the light post, and although the light post didn't move, it'd be an omen of what was to come, as Kathy gave her husband Alessandro to hold so she could film. The 6-story tall Cat in the Hat balloon, a staple of the parade since 1995, came down the street as huge gusts pushed it towards that same lamppost. As the handlers struggled to control it, the massive balloon pushed into the lamppost multiple times, and that's when tragedy struck. The 100-pound post fell into the crowd below, injuring 4 people. While Jay Aykroyd and Elaine Keating were bruised, and Marie Clossy suffered a concussion and injured hand, their injuries were nothing compared to what happened to Kathy Carona. Although initially authorities told the Associated Press that none of the injuries were life-threatening, Kathy was rushed to St. Luke's Medical Center, where her neurosurgeon told the New York Times it was one of the worst crush injuries of the skull I have ever seen. Dr. James Hughes would later tell author Elaine Landau her skull was fractured so badly, it just split apart. Even with the accident, the now deflated Cat in the Hat continued in the parade, and I don't know what it says about our country to have Beavis and Butthead cracking jokes in front of a balloon they are unaware almost killed someone, but it certainly says something. Carona was in a coma for nearly a month, and her emergence from it was considered a bit of a Christmas miracle from her family. Still, the road to recovery was long and arduous, as she suffered pretty severe brain damage. Before the accident, she was a financial analyst on Wall Street, but even a year after the incident, she was having difficulty remembering the plots of movies she had just seen. Not surprisingly, she sued Macy's, the lamppost manufacturer, and New York City for a total of $395 million. Her attorney, John Quinlan Kelly, who successfully sued O.J. Simpson in civil court on behalf of the family of Nicole Brown, claimed there was willful and careless negligence from the parties involved, saying, quote, "The essence of the lawsuit is that Macy showed willful, wanton disrespect for parade spectators and put corporate profit ahead of personal safety and should be held accountable." Separately from Carona, Aykroyd, Keating, Clossy, and someone named Ala Pluhar also filed their own lawsuits, with Clossy claiming that Macy's wouldn't even pay her medical bills. Even before the lawsuits were filed, New York mayor and hitchhiking enthusiast Rudy Giuliani formed a task force to determine what they could do to prevent any incidents in the future. When he floated the idea of maybe minimizing the role of the balloons, another accidental dad joke, people were outraged. Patrice Felton, herself a mayor in the city of Xenia, Ohio, told the New York Daily News, "Tell Rudy you need the big balloons. That's the draw. It's like going to the racetrack and worrying about car accidents. You take your chances."
What the hell are you talking about?
While ultimately the balloons were not banned from the parade, there were massive rule changes. For starters, a size cap was put in place, which would see the retirement of massive balloons like Bugs Bunny, Woody Woodpecker, and Rex, who we all remember from the smash hit film, We're Back, A Dinosaur Story. The Cat in the Hat was also retired because, come on. It wasn't just the balloons which got new requirements, as the training to become a volunteer balloon handler became more rigorous. Alongside the more intensive training for their unpaid labor force, Macy's would also increase the size of their balloon teams, as well as adding vehicles to supplement them. But the most important guidelines that were put in place concerned the wind. According to the new rules, the balloons could not fly if the winds exceeded 23 miles per hour or gusts exceeded 34. Anemometers would be posted along the route to help warn handlers if the wind was increasing, and an NYPD sergeant would be stationed to every balloon in case something went wrong and a balloon needed to be removed from the parade, like Sonic was. Their hope was that these new rules would prevent accidents, and for the most part, they've been successful, albeit not perfect. In 2005, the M&M balloon knocked down a lamppost and injured a pair of sisters, but luckily their injuries were minor. And while an investigation by the city seemed to chalk it up to a freak accident, they did tweak some of their rules just to be safe. The only other incident of note I found during my research came from 2008. Which, aside from being the parade that introduced a nation of grandparents to the concept of rickrolling, also saw the Keith Haring balloon bump into the broadcast booth.
Envisioning decades ahead, we see an elevated highway which spans from a modernized reproduction of New York City's famed Brooklyn Bridge.
As for Kathy Carona, she settled for an undisclosed amount that the New York Post said was in the multi-millions. According to New York City spokesman Larry Martin, the city didn't have to pay a dime, saying, quote, "There never was a determination that the city was negligent in any way. What monies were paid for by insurance companies." It's unclear just how much Kathy eventually recovered from the ordeal. As you might imagine, she retreated back into private life and rarely spoke to the press. When the M&M accident happened in 2005, reporters reached out to her for comment, but it was her family members who answered their questions instead. I wish I could say that was the end of Kathy Carona's story, but life had one more surprise in store for her. In 2006, Yankees pitcher Corey Lytle was flying a small airplane with his flight instructor Tyler Stanger when it crashed into the Bel Air apartments in Manhattan, New York, killing both of them. In an astonishing coincidence, one of the apartments destroyed belonged to Kathy and her family. She was on her way home at the time, and if she had arrived even minutes earlier, she would have almost certainly been killed. For the second time in a decade, she had cheated death, making her either the luckiest or unluckiest woman on Earth. One last piece of strangeness before we go. When the investigation to determine the cause of the crash concluded, one of the causes they cited was the wind. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like, and if you're interested in seeing more, hit subscribe. And let me know what you think of the video in the comments below. I'd really like to hear from you. Thank you.